In most of the organizations, they tend to have multiple business units, divisions, levels, or even departments. Each have their own products, services, processes, applications, systems, and targets. And a good portion of these activities are redundant. And these organizations tend to split themselves into multiple departments, which actually tend to focus on things that are, relevant to them. But sometimes these sort of activities are like, you can say, they're common amongst the departments. Hence, let's suppose you are from a department A and there is another person who is from department B. What is the quick way of actually um, trying to understand the data? And that is obviously through through by some sort of a dashboard. So to rectify such problems, companies tend to use dashboards for actually clearly mapping out the key data. So anyone at any time can actually go in to those dashboards and can review the performance, review the data, and make decisions upon them. So for this project, we will be building actually the dashboard. Let's see how this can be done. So firstly, just to give you a quick snapshot of how a dashboard could be. So these are some of the relevant information we have. This is just a sample one. So obviously we'll be building a much more detailed version. And you could have like a performance area. So for example, when you click them, you will see data and they may change according to what the API may offer you. Okay, so let's see how this can be done. So I already had this code built in, developed. Now I'm just going to remove them all, and we are going to start from the scratch. So don't worry much about this. Let's just remove the files, and we will start from the scratch. Okay, so building the dashboards, the first thing that you need to actually have is what sort of a data you have. So let's just don't worry much about the dashboard over here. We just remove it. This should get fixed, and we will be good to go. Okay, so the first thing that you need to actually look into is what sort of a data you are getting. So, for example, we have this spreadsheet, and over here our main metrics are month, organic source, direct sources, referral source, social source, email sources, page views, users, new users, session, number of sessions, page per session, average session time, and the bounce rate. So let's assume this is the data of their website, or some maybe it could be of interns even. So let's just take this data, for example, giving us an idea of how on a on monthly basis how the data have actually grown up, or how data have actually scaled up. And um, maybe there is a guy who belongs to a data who is a data analytics person, and he wants to have a view of the whole website traffic. So the best way to actually give that sort of a data or a view is to obviously show them some sort of a dashboard. So what we'll do it is we're going to use this data and build a dashboard using it. So obviously we know what our traits are or what our key parameters are, and then we need to do it monthly basis. So that's all good. The next thing is how we can do this. So obviously, if you remember, there were like widgets. So we had the widget for the text, which was showing this sort of a value. We had chart widgets. We had it could be like a sort of a pie chart or dog nut. So that sort of a widget, we should build it out first, and then obviously connect them with the data. So let's start with the coding. So let's just create first a dashboard. So I'll create a component called it dashboard.js, and for now let's make it React class component actually, and let's do that. So we have the dashboard. That's okay. I'm going to fix this, so that's fine. I'm going to call this our dashboard, So that's good. So this is all fine. I'm gonna go into app.js. Will import my dashboard from the components. The next thing we will be doing it is we are going to start working inside the dashboard.js. We will definitely need a style sheet. So I'm just going to add our dashboard.css style sheet and we'll import the style sheet as well. So let's just go in and type in the import and dashboard.css. Okay, so we have the this one imported as well. Now the next thing is let's start building the layout first. To build the layout, we will be using the Bootstrap, and the way you can install it is just go to your terminals, go to that particular folder location, and just use npm install react bootstrap dash space bootstrap. Once that is done, you can import the react bootstrap easily, and that should just do the job. So for example, I want to import the column, row, and basically the containers from the bootstrap. So I'm gonna use react bootstrap. For saving my time, I have the bootstrap already installed. And if you want to learn more about it, you can obviously refer the video that has been shared to you for on how to actually use the bootstrap. So to check whether my bootstrap is already present or not, I'm going to go into package.json and we'll just look into react dash bootstrap. So that's already over there. So that's being installed over there. Now, the next thing is, so let's just first build a text widget. So that'd be good. To build that, let's just start with, okay, so let's create one. I'm going to start using the class name from the start, so that just saves a bit of time. So it could be a widget wrap, and within them I had so there was a heading, so we can call it widget title, and then there was obviously within them we had the values. So maybe there is some mistake I have done. Okay, no, it's all good. uh, so we call this as widget value. Within the widget value wrap, you may have values and text events. So that could be value, that will be just simple value. And if let's suppose you want to give some sort of a description, then you can have a description over there as well, depending whether you want to show that description or not. So we can say some text, and 1 2 3 could be the value and the title could appear over here. Once we do that and just go to the react, you should see this one live over here. So let's just go and check whether it's connected or not to our app.js. It's not. Let's just use it. So that should just show us now this initial sort of a data. Let's see. Okay, what could be the value or the issue? Dashboard, board.js, dashboard. I just will do one thing as a good practice. Okay, that'd be better. Okay, so this is done. Now, next thing is obviously applying some sort of CSS to them. So let's just do that. So firstly, I'm gonna import the font. So the way you can do it is you can just go to Google Fonts, and for example, we'll go to Google Font, and I'm gonna use the internal, and over here you just need to import this. The way you can import this is, so for example, I want to use three styles. One is probably 300 weight. The other one is could be like a 600. Okay, maybe 700 and the 600 semi bold. And in the embed, you get two ways to import them. One is obviously through link, and the other one is import through the CSS. So we are going to copy this. We are going to go into our dashboard.css. If in case you want to use it in the app.css, you can do that. That will actually import it for the entire project. But since I'm just building this particular component, I'm gonna just do it for the dashboard.css. Now we have this font. The way you can use it is just using this CSS rule. Now we'll go back and I'm gonna refresh a bit, and we'll firstly apply this to the body, and we'll make the background to be dark. So that could be the black color. I want this, and I want the font to be all white initially. That can change even if needed. And for the widget wrap, we can have a value which could be like background hash 2a 2a 2a. These are my tested values, so you can even replicate them if you want to. There's no issue. So let's just do that. So this is good. In the body, I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm gonna place the font over here in the font family. So let's just go back and do this, and we'll actually go in. Okay, we might have a little switch widget wrap, so that I'm gonna copy. So let's just place it over here. Then, so this is all good. We have this thing done. Now the next thing is obviously border bottom, 1 pixel solid. Let's call it half zero f0. Maybe I want to play around with it and make it a little lighter. So this one looks good. Now for the font, I'm gonna align it to the left. I'm gonna make it uppercase, and then we'll make the font size a smaller. Font weight, I can try 600, looks good. And a bit of padding. So that's also there. Now this is all good. The next thing I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna paste it over here. Uh, for values, normally you tend to actually use a larger font size. So let's do that actually. So that's there. Font weight 700. So that's fine. We're going to left align it. So that's there. I'm going to add some padding. So that's also fine. Maybe want to actually have line 100%, and that'd be better. And after that, next thing is actually let's just use the description and text align left and font size 12 pixels, and use some padding even from the top and padding bottom a bit. Maybe in fact we can apply the from the external depth the padding, so just remove that a bit. You may be wondering, I'm not coding it directly, I'm just firstly making the widgets. Yeah, so I mean, this is another approach that I'm doing it. I just want for the dashboard to have my layouts built up first, and then actually work on the data APIs, etc. Because on the dashboard, the real stuff is all the layout and the components and the widgets actually. So obviously we need to build them first. So we have our first widget ready, and obviously this widget will get reused every now and then. So what we should do it is we should create a component, and that should be called as what? It should be called as a text widget. So let's just create one. We'll go into component and we'll call it widget text.js. And once we do that, React functional component, RFCE. So we got this, and we'll go back to dashboard.js. We'll copy this code, and we'll go over here to this component, and we'll place. So I guess the best is to use this approach. And over here, we can use the props. So the title, we can pass it on with the props. Props.title could be the easiest one. Then you want to pass on the value, and you want to pass on some text. So value should be the value, and text should be the text. Easy one. Title, value, and text we should remember. And we have given the props already. So our widget is all good to be used. Now let's go back and go into dashboard.js, import this, import widget, from, and we use this. I'm gonna do one thing more. We'll actually call this, and we'll now start calling title text title uh, value equals to 100, for example, and some description is literally we had description. What was we? Okay, we can call this description. That'd be easier to remember. And we go back to over here, and we call this description some text, and we close this. Once we close this, we have our first text widget ready. Let's see how it works. So this works. Now, if you want to create 10 more widgets like this and give some different values, uh, it will work actually. We don't need to worry. So this is all working. This is from our previous learning that we had, that how to build actually components, and we know we actually just created text widgets. The next obviously widget that we want to build uh, is basically the chart widgets. So let's just work towards it. So to start, our very first requirement is that we will be actually using the Fusion charts for building our charts. And for that, we will need to actually install the Fusion charts onto our project. The way to do that is that you actually install using npm install Fusion charts, and then just copy paste this command onto your terminal, and that should do it. If you, for our case, for my case, it's already installed. I have actually, already installed it up and within the project. So I'm just going to use it. And the way to use it is that once you have this installed, you're just going to follow the steps, and that should just have your first React chart set up as within your app actually. So in case, let's suppose you want to learn, you can actually follow up the previous video that was shared for the Fusion charts. Anyways, let's start with I'm just going to follow the documentation again, so you can learn now even. The first step is to include React. We already have it within our project or within our component. The next step is obviously to include this React FC, React Fusion charts. Then we're going to do Fusion charts again, library chart. Then the column 2D, I'm going to call this as, uh, let's call this chart. That'd be better. And the Fusion theme we want to include, so that's okay. And we will pass on the values. There was one change that I did, so I'm going to change that to chart, Fusion theme, all good. So this is all installed. Now, obviously, you can just, the first example, you can just follow this data. We are just going to copy this, and above the render, I'm going to place it as my data. The next step is obviously configuring the charts. So we will configure the chart, and within it, I'm going to place this. And then the very last step is that I'm going to actually have this component passed on within my render uh, method. So we'll in fact actually remove this widget for now. Just remove it all together, that'd be better. And let's just do this. Okay, so we have this constant chart data. So there is some error. Constant chart data. So maybe we can actually, oh, there is an issue. This was placed at the wrong place. We need to place this over here. So that's good. And that should do the job. Okay, so we have our charts ready. Now, okay, so if you look at our data, will we need this sort of a chart? So maybe only the bar charts, which may show organic, direct, and referral sources or social sources and the email source 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can actually use them uh, probably by changing the data one, two, three, four, five. We won't need the other ones. That's my understanding. Or I can actually pass on the data, and as per it, it can change its view. So that's completely fine. We don't need to worry about it right now. Let's just create. I'll just change a bit in terms of settings that I know should be helpful. So we will make it 100%, and I'm only gonna make it 125 as a pixel. Let's see what happens. And I'm gonna use the bar 2D rather than the column 2D. So that'd be better. Again, you can follow the documentation. There are lots of charts which are available. You can configure them by chart type, and that should be the easiest way of doing it. Then the other thing is the format will remain the JSON. That's completely fine. I won't need the caption, so that actually I will just remove it. Let's see whether it removes it or not. So that's done. Then I won't need even this, so that's also removed. Will I need the background color? I need the background color, so I know there is a BG color and configuration, and I can actually define that. Remove this. Will remove the y-axis even. Will remove the suffix even. That should. I mean, this looks a little better. And will I need this country? I won't need the x-axis name either. So that should be good for us as a widget. Now, this data is all can be configured using the data, so we can use the props to pass it on. And now let's just convert this into a form of a widget. So we can call this as a bar widget, and so create a component widget bar.js, and I'm going to save my life, going to copy this, and we'll just convert this into widget bar, and then widget bar. Within them, widget title, I will need it as it is. And within the value, I won't need the value, I won't need the description. So now the props will obviously will vary. Probably it will be the data that we will need. So let's just go back over there, copy the stuff that we need. We will need these two. So in fact, rather than this chart data, we will pass on, we'll just need this. And we'll go back over here to bar widget. Above it, we'll just use the configuration. And as the in the chart data, we will have props dot, you can call it data, that'd be good. And over here, we are going to just copy paste the this particular stuff. So that should do the bar chart for us. So we have the configuration, we are passing on the props. So this is all good. So our widget should be ready. Now we will go back, and we will import this. So import widget. This will be called as widget bar from slash widget bar. Okay, and how to use it? We were passing the data and the title. So let's just create one title, some title, and data was some. We were passing on some value, so that could be the chart data. So if we pass on this and refresh, okay, we have an error, is not defined. Okay, we got this. This all needs to go inside now. Widget bar. So that should just bring in our widget for the bar. Now, the next step is the dognut, how we can create it. So similar to it is another widget, which is called as dognut. So if you will go over here, you can again create your own charts using any of the forms. So let's just try and see how dognut looks like. So we click one, and they will have a shape something like Uh, let's see. This is not this like this one. So we are going to use this, and I'm going to replicate this. Uh, in fact, we'll first create the file in the components. Call it widget boug hatch and not .js, and we'll actually first copy the widget bar, and we'll go back over here. We'll change few stuff like uh, widget bar, widget docknut, widget docknut. So this is all good. The only thing that we want to change over here is basically this particular value. It needs to be called as boug nut 2D. Okay, so we have this, and rest of the stuff remains the same. You can actually learn about it from this particular what you call as documentation. But if in case you just want to follow, just use this. Just dognut 2D, and we save it, and we go back to the dashboard.js and import dashboard from this, and we should be good to go. Now, in case we want to change this, I'm going to change because the same data was needs to be passed on. So, but I want to do one change. Over here, there were four values. I will pass on just the two values. So we'll just first see example for dognut, and let's just go and check, or let's just see configuring your charts by chart type, charts, and by on dognut. Uh, Maybe we want to see the by chart type and list of charts. Let's just see this, and and then we will actually, okay, so for example for dognut 2D it was this alias we can follow. So we can go back and check our alias, was it correct? So it's all good. We'll click this, and we are going to see this working example. So in the working example, you can follow up the charts configuration and the data. So data had the label and the value. So let's just see whether we had the label or a value or not. So we were passing it on from the dashboard.js label and the value. So that's completely fine. Next step is actually to check the configuration. So we can just copy this for now and can go back to our widget component. Widget docknut, and then let's just see in these chart properties, do we are we following up the correct ones or not? So we don't need the caption, we don't need the sub, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this, I don't need this. I mean, that's fine, that's fine. So we are all good with it. So there's no issue. Let's just see, this is all good, and let's just go and check. Now it is very much near to it, so it should be workable. Let's see, and go to dashboard again and save it. Let's see. Only thing I want to change is this, the name. Okay, it should work now. Okay, so it is workable. So you can see this. In case you want to change the color, there's a way that you can do it. So it's a text, and for text, if you want to change the color within it, you will use not the color property, because it's a sort of like what do you call as SVG. We can maybe turn this into white, and let's try and check whether this functions or not. Dashboard.css, and we apply, and let's see. Otherwise, there could be settings that we will need to touch and base. So let's just refresh. Okay, so this is working. So you can use this and it should impact your chart. So we are done with the Docknut charts as well. Similar to it, if you want to like build your own widgets, you can do it. You can just replicate and the widgets and come up with more versions. So for example, another version could be that so for the widget text, my idea could be that if a certain value or is reached, then for example, if you pass on all the four values, maybe you want to compare them, and maximum source could be that, and for the maximum source out of the highest value, you actually give the give the widget. So for example, if it's like to define this is, so we are passing on organic source, we are passing on direct source, referral source, social source, email source. And out of all those five values, whichever is the maximum, you take that value, you print that, and you also mention the source name over there. That could be another widget type. So like that, you can create your own custom widgets. So this was all about the widgets. Now let's work towards the data side. Okay, to import the data, we're going to use the fetch method from the JavaScript. And in order to do that, let's just create the constructor first and component did mount. So that even. And obviously, if in case you are actually fetching the data from spreadsheet or some via API, so you will need some sort of a credentials or API details. To save your life, I'm actually going to share the this particular code, or you can say a snippet of code which you can use from the gist. So we will need some sort of configuration. So you can use the API key and the spreadsheet ID, and obviously the constant URL. So you can define them over here. And in the constructor, just ignore this for over here and ignore everything for now. And for the fetch, you just actually just take in till this part, fetch till the line 75. And once you do that, you're going to actually, I'm going to explain this a bit, so how this all functions. So let's just maybe remove this for now, and let's just see what we get. So okay, we have an error over here, I know for sure. Yes, because we didn't actually copy this part. So now it should be all good. So we'll remove this for now and see what we get as in the data. So what we're doing it is we're going to use this API and the spreadsheet ID, and via this URL, when we browse, we're going to actually get the data in a JSON form, and we are going to obviously see the data, how it looks. So let's just go over there in our app and right click console, and we just going to, okay, it's fine, constructor. Okay, we have issue over here. Must call super. Okay, that's bad stuff. Read it. Okay, that should just fix the error. Let's see. Okay, so let's just go back and see what we get in the console. So in the console, we have a spreadsheet ID. Within that, we have arrays and the value ranges. In the value ranges, you have values, and all the data is coming. So that's how it's functioning. Now let's try and call back the loops and everything that we had written. So we were actually taking in the row values, data dot value ranges 0 dot values. So you can just compare this. So data is obviously this object that that we were getting, and values ranges 0 dot values. So we are actually getting all those values within this batch row of values. Now we wanted this data to be row wise, right? So what we are doing it is we're going to count on the batch row values. So we'll start with the first row, and till the length I plus plus, and then we are creating a row object, and within it we are actually passing on these values. So for January 2018 we are going to pass in February 2018, we're going to pass on these values. So that's how actually the that array with rows of values are actually getting done. So let's try and see what happens when we console log rows now and check how it goes. So let's see. It's loading. Okay, so now you can see we have objects 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and for each month we have a particular set of data. So that's how it's doing it. So this is all good in the array. I mean within that array we had an object, and object has all the properties, and properties have all the values. So you can easily see all of them. So now the next step is that, okay, we have this data. Now, if you remember, we wanted to do something like this, that when we click January 2018, we just get the row of data of that and that particular one. So to do that, we obviously will need some sort of a drop down or some sort of a way that we can actually click and change the values. So let's just do that. I'm going to remove this widget for now, and we'll come back to we'll actually need to install a npm react dropdown. So the way to install this is npm install, zoom in, npm install react dropdown dash saves. You actually run this, and once you run it and it's installed, you can just go back and check in package.json, and that should you should have this. I already have installed this. So I'll go back to my dashboard.js. We'll import this. I'm not going to import the style for now. I'm just going to import the drop down. So let's just do that first. And so we're going to import this. And so that's completely fine. So we have the drop down with us. Now let's just create a drop down over here. Okay, I'm saving it. Now let's just create a drop down. But drop down actually requires some sort of values even. So for example, you need to have options, on change, default, placeholder, etc. So let's just copy this, and I'm gonna go in to this, place in this. We'll define the const. In fact, we'll just copy this for now and see whether it's functional or not. Let's try and check. Okay, so this is functional 1, 2, 3. Let's see if we actually copy the style even. So what happens now? Let's check. Import. Yeah. Okay, that should actually bring in the style as well. Uh, okay, that doesn't look that bad. It's maybe we just keep it. Otherwise, we could actually have applied a custom design. Even that won't look that bad either. So that's there. Now in the options, we need to have our own options defined. That could be like, let's just do that. That could be called as within the state. This dot state equals to, we can call this drop down options. And for now, we can define this as, maybe the starting point could be like just an empty array. So that could be the starting point. So this is fine. Now we can go back, and obviously we need to push on some of the values. So if you actually go back and refer the gist, over here I have created drop down option. You can copy this snippet, and we will again go through over it. And within this, so to see how this all works, so we again created a variable drop down option. We actually now are pushing the drop down option dot push the months So from this row of an array, we actually are pushing just the months, and within that, we are then updating the state. The first selected value that we are defining is January 2018, and then later on we are actually using the built-in function to get the data. So we will now go in and create a function called is get data, just so we don't get an error. And we see that I mean next thing should be that our this the values that we had over here, we will just remove them, and our drop down should be functional. So that should be our goal. So in the option, we'll write in this dot state dot drop down options. So on change for now, we may actually create a update dashboard function. So let's do that. And in the values, that could be um, we need to actually have some sort of selected value that we need to pass on as in placeholder. We can keep this. So let's just first create update dashboard function, and then in the values we will define another state selected value. So let's just go in and define selected value, and within that we will define it as null. Okay, so that's fine. And over here, we will define update dashboard as another function. So that's there. In the selected value, we were already passing on this as state and January 2018. So that should do the job. And let's just try and check. So we actually have a default option 98103 over here. Default option. Let's check. Okay, value this dot state dot selected value. That should just fix it. So January 2018. So we now have the data. You can already see it. It's there, and our drop down is ready. Next step is obviously the functions that we define. We need to update them. So or place in some of the you can say some code in order to them. So for example, if I choose this, the corresponding value should be there. So to do that, let's just create some code. So for get data, we can define it as an arrow function. We were passing on some arguments before. So if you remember, we were passing on uh, in the get data, not over here, but at the top, I remember. Yes. So we don't need, okay, get data, we were passing on the month. So we will actually need to define this. And for arrow function, we do that. So that should just be good. And okay, no errors. Now the another part is defining. Now you need to obviously get in the array and pass on the values and obviously updates the widgets and also the states. So let's just first define the what you call as the states, and then we will work with them. So one could be that we can have these properties values. So for first, I'm going to have organic source. So organic source could be null at the start. Organic source null at the start. Then direct source null. Later on, I am just going to import like maybe um, two values for now or three values for now, and later on you can just replicate this to import other values. So organic source, direct source, referral source, we have them. So this is all good. Now within that, we're going to have another one which is items, for storing the number of items, and that should do the job. Where are we passing on? So just a second, let me just check one thing. So okay, so this was item state that wasn't defined. Now should be good. So in the item state, we're just pushing on the row, this row that we created. So nothing too complex. Okay, so this is good. Now let's just actually you. So when someone choose a particular area, this from this get data gets called, or update dashboard gets called. So we need to actually write in the code now for get data. We come back to over here and we start with the array that we are getting. So constant array equals to this dot state dot items. We're getting the items from over here. Now the next thing is the length of the array. So this array dot length. You can check on the values by using the console event. So that's good. Next thing is we can just define let organic source is equals to 0. That so we can do it. And another one could be the same direct source. This is the starting values, and obviously the selected values we had, we want to make them null even, so nothing is passed on to them. Then let's start looping through this data and start pushing them. So for example, for we're going to use for loop that I equals to 0, I is less than array length, and I plus plus. So sorry for this. Okay. Then if now the argument which is provided to us, which was, let's suppose if it's January 2018, then we should just match it against the array of the month. So month, month. And if it's true, then only that particular value should be passed on. So organic source view, array, again array of I, and within it, or what is the parameter name, is organic source. You copy paste that, and same goes for them. So direct source, and over here direct source name is direct underscore source. That should just do the magic. Okay, we have an I is not defined. Okay, where is that? Oops, not but okay. And lastly, the selected value is equals to the argument that we had selected, and we in the end we just update the state. So set state, and we open it, and we just now change on the organic source becomes organic source, and direct source becomes direct source. You can even have some, I mean, you can make them some different, maybe you can even make them capital letters if you want to distinguish between the variable defines and the state defines, but I'm just keeping the name same for saving my life. Now I have these two values, I have the states with me, so that should just do this part. And so whenever someone is trying to fetch the data, especially over here at the start, we get in the data automatically. So let's try and see what happens. So we can let's just try and use the callback. So console.log this dot state dot we will see the organic source value of the start. So let's try and see in the console. Okay, so we have an arrow. Console.log. Oops, and we are missing something. Let's try and check. Okay, let's try and see. That should just fix it. Good. So we check what we get at the start, 3537, and we compare it. So remember, The way the code is working is that we are first getting the data and pushing it to a row array, and then defining the using the set state, that okay, our first value is January 2018, and then we passing on as a callback function once the state is defined to January 20, to this function get data. This calls up get data, and we just use the array from this state dot items, which had the rows in it. So items had the rows which you actually pushed through all of them. So I mean, which you have pushed earlier, and now you're just checking the length. And these are nothing but just the properties that we had. So organic source view, direct source view, if in case you will have referral source views values, social values, and then whatever is the selected value. Selected value is nothing more, it's just the argument that you're passing. So it's January 2018. So if example, if it's February 2018, it's going to be like going to match that. So for example, if you change it to February 2018, that is the starting point, and so rather than January 2018, we have the February 2018. Now it should show us 4421. So let's try and check. It is selected, go to console, and sorry, do we have, okay, let's check. Uh, February 2018. Okay, just wait. Um, let's check. Let's check. It should function because that's how it's all working. Let's see. 4421 and 4421. So this is all functions, all good. Oh, I'll just revert it back to January 2018. So that should be good. Now, the next thing is obviously when I choose, let's suppose, certain value. For example, on chain, there's an update dashboard function defined. So what should happen over there? So there should be something, some sort of a way that we get on the value, whatever the value of that event is, and then use the get data which we just defined in order to pass. And obviously, then we just update the state event. So we will be getting the event from over here again using the arrow function, and so that's good. Now this way to access the internal function is get data. We pass on the event dot value, and only thing we need to do it now is set the state to actually selected value becomes the value we just passing on. So that's it. That should just do the magic. So now within it, once we do that, I'm going to again call an arrow function just to check on the values. What's the value now of the organic source? I'm going to remove this and let's see. So February 2018 is selected initially. Oh, sorry, January 2018, December, November. So if you compare, November is 48829. So our app is more or less functional. We just now need to actually pass on this data to the, you can say, to the widgets. So let's start with that. Okay, to start passing on the data to our widgets, we first need to decide what widgets we are building. So what we are going to do it is we're going to actually start with organic source or direct source, referral source. I'm going to call in the page views, users, and then the new users. So first, I'm going to add few more for page views, null, and then you have users, null, and you have new users. You can say null. Um, Now, why I need that? So for organic source or direct source or referral source, this could be my bar chart. For page views, this could be my text one, or even for all of them, these could be my text widgets. Users and new users, and users and new users, I could use actually docnerd to compare. So that's the reason I am actually getting on these 5 6 values for now. So let's just replicate the whole process, nothing too difficult. Referral source, we pass on the referral source over here. um, Page views, page views over here, users and new users and new users. And on your right hand side, we can just referral source, we can take on this value of referral source. Page views, we can take the page views heading. And for users and new underscore users. So that's there. We obviously need to set the state. So just going to copy that. Page view, referral source becomes referral source. Page view becomes page view. In fact, we just did one mistake while copying, that we forget to actually declare them. So we're here, we are going to make them 0 just in case by chance the value didn't come, so at least we won't get an error. So page views become page views, users, new users. So we have 1 2 3 and referral source. Okay, so in case you want to just follow the same pattern, just you realign them, you can say, reorder them. Okay, so that's done. Now we have the values. Okay, so that's good. If you want to check whether the values are coming or not, just change the console over here and check in the callback function. So okay, so January 2018. I'm going to change, this one is coming for October 2018. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. October 2018. The user's value is 61631. Now, if I'm going to change it September, it's 49305, 49035. So that's functional. So this copy pasting method is all good. So all fine. Now let's just create our, what you call as the widgets. We earlier had imported, already created them. So one was widget bar, other was widget docnerd, and the widget text. We are going to use the widget text for now. And even going to start building the layout, which is using the column, rows, and containers from the React Bootstrap. So easy way out. Let's just have container first. So container will have rows, and rows can have multiple columns, and I will have 2 columns, and one will actually have down, which is here. Another will have a dashboard heading, and I can give this row name, class name, top header, in case I want to change the color of it. And this could be fluid, which means 100%. And let's just build another container with the rows, and this one can have what you call as slash container and set in center. So I won't want this to be fluid. And over here I will need 4 call, in fact it could be called as the widget wraps, or you can say main dashboard. That'd be better, main dashboard. And over here I'll have 4 columns for the first case. So column 1, 1 2 3 4. So that's there. In the widget text, I'm going to pass on title, text, and value, and the text. Oh, sorry. And let, for example, and I'm going to write some description for now. and check whether it's working or not. So if it's functional, I'm going to replicate and we'll do a little change. Okay, so widget, let's see. So our widget is functional and it's all good. Now, the first widget could be the organic source. So we can call it organic source. And the value could be like this dot state dot organic source, simple. And in the description, I don't want to pass on any description, so I will just remove this. Let's see what happens. If I do that, I'm not passing on the prop. Okay, so this is how our widget looks. It looks fine. It doesn't look that bad, so that's fine. Now the next thing is I'm gonna go in and create other widgets, and we'll define this as one was organic source view, the other one value was direct source, so direct source, then third one was referral source, and I remember that we actually had page views even, so that's there. We even had users and new users, so let's just um let's just create them even. Now in the next row, in fact, let's just do one thing, that we add, call this one, and replicate this. And over here we have new users, new users, users, new users. Okay, and then leave these two blank for now and see what happens. Let's go back and check. So we have now how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 widgets. Let's just play around with them, and they are functional. So whenever we have some sort of a value, it's changing, it's all good. So it's functional. That's fair one. So that's good. Now the next thing we want to do it is, let's just in fact, wait, let's just do one thing. Next thing we want to do it is create the widget for the chart. So if you remember, I'm going to extend this in fact. So if you remember that in order for the charts to function, like whether it's dognut or your bars, we need to pass on some data, right? In the form of a object like this. Now, if for example we want to compare, if we want to create a bar chart for the three variables, like over here, organic source, direct source, referral source, then obviously we need to create labels, and as per them we need to pass on the values. So so we need to do that. We need some sort of a way to do this. So for that, what we'll do it is, we'll first define an array, in fact a state you can say. So state, which could be your it could be like a source array, which is defined as initially as null, obviously, or you can say empty array, source array. And then we will start where we had the get data function, and we were actually getting this data. We're going to push on these values. So it'd be like again a null, let this equals to this array, empty array, source array dot push. We'll actually create the values, which was something like this. Be that. Move this from over here. And we'll copy and paste them over here. The labels, I will change them to organic source, direct source, referral source. So organic source, direct source, and referral source. For the values, just like them, we're going to copy them and replace them with the values. Let's see. Okay, we have certain issues over here. So we just remove this. Okay, so we're going to copy organic source, direct source, referral source. So our source array is ready. We're going to push that to the state, and that's good. Now we're going to call in the other widget, which is the document widget bar. So widget bar, and over here we're going to define in the title. So comparison, you can say, and source comparison. That'd be better heading. Source comparison, and over here data is your this dot state dot source array. Sorry for this source array. See source array. Now we're just going to close this. So okay, so let's see whether this is functional or not. It should be functional. Let's just check. Maybe there could be some error, but we can just have a view to it. So okay, so this is ready. Apart from it looks ugly, we're going to fix that. That's completely fine. So we have this chart with us. The other chart that we were building on was for what was using the dognet. So I want to compare actually the users and the new users. So we'll just do the same way. We'll define the users array and it be empty again. Sorry, it should be here. Source array empty and users array, which is empty at the start. Let source empty array. Then within it, I'm going to start pushing it. So we'll just replicate, nothing too difficult. And here, other than source, if you users array, and the two values that I'm passing on over here is users and the new users. Users and new underscore users, and we can call them users and new users. So new users, so that's fine. Next thing is obviously defining the state, users, new users, and using them with the dognet. So we will create a widget over here and users. Array. Let's check. That's fine. Let's just copy the name, save life, and okay. And we can call this users comparison chart or something. Let's see whether it's functional or not. If it's functional, we just okay. So that is also functional. Now we need to obviously modify the dashboard so it looks a bit more better. We haven't even used this description, so that is something you can try and use as well, or I'll just talk about it. So you can modify this dashboard. So the way this now looks is ugly. Let's just make it better. So first thing first, top header. Let's just make it a bit better. Top header to be defined first. Okay, top header, and I want to make it hash 2a 2a 2a, and we'll want some margin at the bottom so it looks good. I want some padding, so I'm gonna do that. I will actually want the font size to be a bit bigger. Okay, I want to text align left. Heading from the text should be a bit like that. So that's okay. I want the font to be bigger. So that's fine. And for our select array, which is the drop down, I'm gonna go in and reduce the font size a bit. And this looks good. I'm gonna make the width 300 pixels. So that should be good. Float and so the top header now looks good. For the widgets, let's just define the overall widget wrap. Widget wrap height 300 pixels. No, 200 pixels. It's fine. A little bit of margin at the bottom, which is this. Makes them look better. Okay. And if you just see these values should stick to the bottom rather than at the top. So we go to widget value, and in fact display flex, and say align items to and height. We can define some height. We can define this much height. Looks good. Little bit of padding from the left as a fix, so that's fine. And I want to actually even define the colors. So rather than using this color, I want to use, let's suppose, yellow color for the text widget. Looks a bit better than the other one. I want to actually change the color for this even. Want to change it to blue, or oh, looks pretty bad. So this looks a little better one. That's good, fair enough. Now let's try and copy this first and go to our dashboard.css. We'll place this in the end. So we'll see now how it looks. So it looks fine. Let's just go back to, okay, so this is fine. I'm going to actually do one more thing. Going to change the structure a bit. So rather than two to here, parallel, and we'll make the charts in parallel. And at the end, we'll just remove these widgets. Probably you can add few more to balance them up. So let's just go over there. We'll just remove these two. We'll make them two columns, and let's just see how it goes. So let's see how it looks. Now this looks a bit better, but still not that good actually. So let's just try and check. So okay, so that's fine. Let's try. I mean, maybe adjust a bit of widget value, the height, and then check. Okay, so okay, this looks better. 143 pixels. We're going to change that to 143 pixels. I'm gonna go over there, and that should be it. So our you can say our dashboard is ready. Now your challenge is here. So your challenge is obviously to build out a few more widgets, which are different in type. So my suggestion is everyone is actually allowed to think on their own. And my suggestion is to play with this data and come up with your own widgets. The widgets could be, so few of the ideas I can give you. The color can change based on the value, number one. You may try out few more charts. You can add more. I mean, you can add more of these values as text widgets. You can create even your own design text widget, or can use, I haven't used the description, you can use some sort of a description as well. You can create comparison charts, which would be in wordings. I mean, I'm yet to actually change these titles, so let's just change them as your last step. So organic, this could be direct source. So these were some of the, you can say, suggestion for you guys to actually uh, to actually create your own dashboard. Let's just I'm just going to actually show you over the last. So organic source, direct source, referral source, page views, source comparison, users comparison, October, August, November, February. So the values are changing. Even the this should be changing. So everything is now connected. Um, so I wish you all the best for the project.